The last photo of my mother was gone. In its place on the mantel was a smiling picture of my stepmom, Brenda, and in my ear was her voice, a cold whisper. You see? You never existed. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, subscribe and tell me where you are watching from. My name is Maya. I'm 26 and I'm a digital archivist for the City Museum. I preserve history for a living. And on August 12th of this year, I realized I was failing to preserve my own. The day everything shattered was my dad's 60th birthday. But the cracks had been there for years, little fissures I tried to ignore. Brenda arrived in our lives when I was 10, just 2 years after my mom passed away. At first, she was all sunshine and baked goods. But soon the little erasures began. I remember when I was 11, I won first place in the school art fair for a watercolor painting of the lake behind our house. I was so proud. I came home holding the blue ribbon, and my dad hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would crack. He put the painting right on the fridge. The next morning, it was on the counter, stained with a dark, sprawling coffee ring. Brenda looked at it with a sad pout. "Oh, honey, I am so clumsy," she said. "I'm so sorry. My dad told me it was just an accident, but I saw the look in her eyes. It wasn't an accident. Then came my high school graduation. It was just me and my dad, a moment I had been waiting for. I asked a friend to take pictures of us, but Brenda snatched the camera away. "Nonsense," she insisted. "I'm the family photographer." When we got the photos back a week later, every single shot of just me and Dad was mysteriously blurry, unusable. All the clear ones featured her, standing right between us, her hand gripping my dad's arm. This was her method, a slow, quiet campaign of replacement. It was so subtle, if I ever pointed it out, my dad would just sigh and say, "Maya, you're being too sensitive. She's trying her best." Which brings us to his birthday party. The whole day, Brenda was buzzing around the house, playing the perfect host. At 7 p.m., she gathered everyone in the living room for a special presentation. She and my dad stood next to a huge canvas covered by a silk sheet. "As you all know," Brenda announced, her voice dripping with emotion, "family is the most important thing to me. So I wanted to create something to celebrate our beautiful blended family." She pulled the sheet away. It was a massive, professionally printed photo collage. Dozens of pictures from the last 16 years. Christmases, vacations, birthdays. My dad was in tears. Everyone was clapping. But my stomach went cold. I scanned the entire canvas, my eyes darting from photo to photo. I wasn't in any of them. It wasn't just that she had excluded me. She had actively removed me. There was the photo from our trip to the Grand Canyon when I was 15. I remembered it perfectly. Me, my dad, and Brenda standing at the edge. But in this version on the canvas, I was gone. The space where I stood was now just more rock and sky, seamlessly blended. There were at least 20 photos just like that. Photoshopped, edited, erased. I felt the air leave my lungs. I walked over to Brenda while everyone was distracted, admiring her work. "Where am I?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She leaned in close, her smile never leaving her face. That's when she said it. "You see? You never existed." My dad came over asking what was wrong. I told him to look closer. "Dad, I'm not in the pictures." She edited me out. He squinted at the canvas, then back at me. "Maya, don't ruin this. It's a beautiful gift. Maybe she just picked the ones that fit the design best." That broke me. I left the party without saying goodbye. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the heavy, leather-bound photo album my mom had started for me. It was filled with pictures from the first 8 years of my life. My first steps, my first lost tooth. It was the one thing I had left that was truly hers. Brenda kept it on the top shelf of the living room bookcase, calling it a family heirloom. Around 2 a.m., I felt a surge of panic. I drove back to my dad's house, let myself in with my old key, and went straight to the bookcase. I pulled down the album. The leather felt cold. I opened it. The first few pages were right. Me as a baby with my mom. But then I turned a page and my blood ran cold. A picture of me on my 5th birthday, blowing out candles, had been replaced with a photo of Brenda and my dad on one of their first dates. Page after page, it was the same story. My childhood was being systematically replaced. 47 photos of me and my mother were gone. Just as I was about to break down completely, my 12-year-old half-brother Leo appeared in the doorway. He looked scared. "Are you okay, Maya?" he asked. I couldn't speak. I just pointed at the album. He nodded slowly. "She does that to my stuff too," he whispered. "She threw away the drawing I made of you last week. She said my room needed to be tidy." This wasn't just about me. This was about control. Absolute control over our family's narrative. Then Leo said something that changed everything. "She gets mad if I ask about her family. From before she met Dad. She says her past doesn't exist anymore." A woman with no past. A woman who erases other people's pasts. As a professional archivist, I knew that a complete lack of historical record is not normal. It's a choice, and it's usually hiding something. That night, I started what I called the ghost file. I went home and sat at my computer. I searched for Brenda's maiden name, Brenda Miller. The results were thin. A few public records from our state, but nothing before 2008, the year she met my dad. It was like she just materialized out of thin air. No old social media accounts, no high school yearbook photos in online databases, no mention in hometown newspapers. It was a digital dead end. My archivist training kicked in. People can scrub the internet, but they can't scrub old-fashioned paper records so easily. I started looking at public archives in the county she claimed to be from in Ohio. After 3 straight nights of searching, I found it. A digitized wedding announcement from a small-town newspaper dated June 4th, 1999. The bride's name was Catherine Miller. She looked exactly like a 20-something Brenda. The groom's name was Jacob Price. I took a screenshot and texted it to my dad. I wrote, "Dad, who is this?" 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Brenda. Her voice was sharp, panicked. "What do you think you're doing, Maya?" she demanded. "I'm just asking Dad a question," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You need to stop digging," she hissed. "You are going to destroy this family with your lies and your jealousy. You need to let the past go." That's when I knew I was onto something huge. I found an old article about the groom, Jacob Price. A year after that wedding photo was taken, he vanished. His car was found abandoned by a river, but his body was never recovered. The police suspected foul play. His wife, Catherine, was questioned, but she had an alibi. She told police she was visiting a sick relative out of state. Shortly after, she disappeared too. The article was written by a local investigative reporter named Sarah Jenkins. I found her email address and sent her a message. I attached the wedding announcement and a current photo of Brenda. The subject line was, "I think I found Catherine Miller." She replied in less than 10 minutes. We met the next day at a coffee shop. Sarah was in her 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I told her everything. The edited photos, the photo album, the whisper. I showed her my ghost file. She listened intently, her expression growing more serious with every word. When I was done, she opened her own worn briefcase and pulled out a file. It was thick with papers. "I've been tracking this cold case for 20 years, she said. She slid a faded flyer across the table. It was a missing person poster for Jacob Price. Underneath his photo was a picture of his wife, Catherine. It was Brenda. The flyer listed Catherine Price, formerly Miller, as a person of interest. She didn't just have an alibi, Sarah said. She had a new identity lined up. After Jacob went missing, she drained their joint bank account, over $50,000, and vanished. The police in Ohio have had a warrant out for her arrest on fraud charges for 19 years. They just never knew where to look. My world tilted on its axis. Brenda wasn't just a cruel stepmom. She was a fugitive, and maybe something much worse. Sarah told me she had a contact in the Ohio State Police. She was going to make a call. 2 days later, on August 21st, my phone rang. It was my dad. He sounded confused and scared. Maya, there are police cars outside. What is going on? My blood ran cold. Sarah had moved faster than I expected. Dad, listen to me very carefully, I said, my voice urgent. Get Leo and get out of the house. Go to the neighbors, do it now. What are you talking about? He asked. I could hear a loud knock in the background. Then I heard Brenda's voice, high and frantic. Don't open that, honey. But it was too late. I heard the door open, and a man's firm voice said, We're looking for Catherine Price. There was a moment of dead silence. Then I heard my dad say, You have the wrong house. There's no one here by that name. The officer's voice was clear through the phone's microphone. Ma'am, are you Catherine Price, formerly Catherine Miller? I heard Brenda start to cry. No, my name is Brenda. You're mistaken. Then I heard the line that will be burned into my memory forever. The officer said, Catherine Morningside Price, you are under arrest for felony fraud and embezzlement. You are also a person of interest in the disappearance of Jacob Price. The fallout was a hurricane. Brenda, or Catherine, was extradited to Ohio. Bail was denied. The local news ran a story with her mugshot next to my dad's family photos. The reporter, Sarah Jenkins, had exposed her as a long-term fugitive. The financial damage was devastating. We discovered Catherine had siphoned over $82,000 from my dad's retirement accounts over a decade. She had forged his signature on loan documents. He had to sell the house I grew up in to pay off the debts and cover his legal fees. He was 60 years old and starting over. A year has passed. Catherine was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 10 years in prison. The investigation into Jacob Price's disappearance has been reopened, with her as the prime suspect. My dad and I are talking again. It's slow and it's hard. He apologized, tears streaming down his face, for the years he didn't see, for the times he called me sensitive, for letting my history be erased. Last week I moved into my own apartment. It's small, but it's mine. In the center of my living room is a single bookshelf. On it sits a new photo album, clean and white. I spent weeks scanning the few original photos of my mom I had left, restoring them digitally. The first picture I placed inside was of her holding me as a baby. Her smile is real. Her love is permanent. Someone tried to erase my past, to convince me in the world that I never existed. But I learned that you can't build a life on top of lies, and you can't erase someone who refuses to be forgotten. I exist. My story exists. If you've ever had to fight for your own truth, let me know your story in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and I'd love to know where you are watching from. Please subscribe if you want to hear more stories about finding your voice.